Hi, a couple of you expressed an interest in getting a copy of the eulogy that I had written for Grandma Laura. So I tried to scan it in, but it's blue ink and it didn't scan well. So I thought, well, I might as well test out my new camera and read it to you. And maybe you'll get a little more fun out of it anyway, and it'll be easier than you having to read it. So here goes. I wrote this and gave it on January 30th, 1999. Annie Laura Shipman Chafee, Grandma, Aunt Laura, Great-Grandma. We all know how you didn't like anyone to make a fuss over you, so let's make it clear that this is not a fuss, but rather a celebration of your life. I'm here to talk about a most remarkable woman. She raised and nurtured, as Mom said, tribes of kids. Mom said that no matter what the circumstances were, Grandma made sure everybody was fed. Even during the Depression and World War II, she managed to always scrape together enough to feed everyone. Life was never easy on her. I was about to have my son Jesse back in March of '78, and I was on the phone with Graham when I mentioned that I was living in Fairleigh, Vermont. And she said, "You know your mother was born there, don't you?" I was amazed. I had no idea that I was living less than a mile away from where she had given birth to my mother. I remember distinctly what she said to me when she and Priscilla called me in the hospital when Jesse was born, after I told her he weighed 8 pounds 4 ounces. She said, "You know, 6 pounds is a nice weight for a newborn." When I last saw her in August of '98, we were discussing the old Bonnie Oaks Resort in Fairleigh, where Mom was born. She said that she and Grandpa had to work for his uncle, who owned the place, in order to stay there. She made a comment that sums it up. She said, "I never expected anyone to give me anything." We all know how hard she always worked, and that she did whatever it took to get the job done. Those of us who are related by blood know that that is where we get what I call our piss and vinegar from. Aunt Laura's day nursery was home to us. I remember someone telling me once that she wasn't my Aunt Laura. I didn't understand what they were talking about, and what they were trying to tell me was that she wasn't my aunt, but she was actually my grandmother. All I heard was that she wasn't mine. It made me furious, and I can remember shouting back, "She is too my Aunt Laura." I was ready to take the world on for that one. I later learned what it all meant, and that I was actually her granddaughter and not her niece, which was even better. We learned many nursery rhymes and children's songs, which we have shared during the rearing of our own children. She always nursed us with her many remedies whenever we fell ill. She used to put her head on our foreheads and announce that we were cold as a cucumber if we weren't feverish. When we made too much noise, which now I realize as a parent was probably all the time, she yelled, "Hark!" to quiet us. She used to respond to an exciting story with, "Oh, my aching back." Being the youngest around, I remember running to her complaining about being picked on by Priscilla or Sheila. I'd tell her how horrible one of them was being to me, and she'd say, "Oh, that brat, just stay right here with me." When we were a bit older and started having friends sleep over, we just couldn't seem to go to sleep, and we always made too much noise. And Grandma had to get up very early to go to work, which now I really appreciate. One thing we learned early on was that if Gram threatened to do something, she meant it, and you could guarantee that it was going to happen. I often wondered what our friends' parents thought when she brought their kid home at 2 or 3 a.m. I realize now that Grandma was under a lot of what we call stress today, with the weight of the world on her shoulders. One of my favorite stories is how she used to storm out of the back door when she apparently needed a break from everything. I used to run behind, right on her heels, saying, "Where are you going, Grandma? Where are you going? Can I come?" She'd say, "Fishing." And I'd say, "Oh, I love to fish, Grandma. Can I come too?" Then we'd go to the barn and sit on bales of hay for a while. We never did catch any fish in that old barn. We spent a lot of what my son now refers to as quality time together. The last few years she lived on Lake Osiris. She relied on me to remember when the favorite shows were on television, and I relied on her to help me water the horses. We all remember spending quality time in the kitchen with her. Every holiday we helped make the pies. She will remain most famous for her signature apple pie, homemade fudge. Although Sheila and I have been known to make some mean apple pies, no one will ever be able to duplicate Grandma's. It wouldn't be Christmas morning either without her tradition of making sure we ate our grapefruit before we opened gifts. We all know how she loved her tea. Every time we pour ourselves a cup of tea, we can be sure she'll be with us, especially if it's Salata, her favorite brand. Some of our fondest memories are from going to camp with Grandma. What a paradise it was to us. When we were quite small, she used to put a life vest on us and tie a rope to us, then let us swim around while she held the rope while sitting on the dock. We could always find Grandma in the big kitchen that sat right over the water. She fed many crowds of people in that kitchen. She showed us how to get the raccoons to come eat out of our hands. Oh, how she did love camp. When I was 14, I flew out to California for Priscilla's wedding. Those of you who visited Grandma in her studio apartment out there know just how small her kitchen was. It was incredible how she managed to cook all the food for the reception in that little tiny kitchen. I remember how proud she was about the ice sculpture she'd gotten for the reception hall. It was a beautiful swan. She flew out east for my wedding and helped prepare for the reception while Sheila was in labor. Sheila talks about how calm Gram was as she was cutting up the sandwiches while Sheila was right there counting the time between contractions, cool as a cucumber, just getting the job done. Grandma wasn't one to wait around for things to happen. She made them happen. We always felt loved, very well loved, and she gave us an incredible gift, the idea that we could do anything we put our minds to. There is a card that I framed titled, "When I Am an Old Woman." The first line is, "I shall wear purple." After reading it, I think you'll all agree that Grandma always wore a little bit of purple. I was talking with Mark about how people deal with stress and how the women in our family live long lives and have such strong constitutions. Look at Grandma, he said. She must have done a lot of fishing. So when you're feeling stressed out and life starts to get too heavy on your shoulders, think of Grandma and do what she would do. Go fishing. Annie Laura Shipman Chafee, you will be sorely missed by so many, but there is some comfort in knowing that you live on in the hearts and souls of every one of us whose lives you have touched. I hope you enjoyed it.